All right, let's give it a little sound check here.
I think everybody heard that.
You think everybody heard that?
Mm-hmm.
Let's try it again. That sounds nice, doesn't it? Oh, boy. So tonight we're having a little bit of, this is Bullet, right?
Yes.
Bullet rye. We've been on a rye kick for
A while.
months and months and months and months, maybe a year now.
Yeah, you keep trying to switch it up into bourbon, and I keep nicely hinting.
Oh, no, you don't nicely hint.
Not anymore.
No.
I'm like, if you buy bourbon, I have to mix it into something.
Really?
Yes.
Why is that?
I don't like the smoky flavor.
Really?
No.
You like the fresh, crisp
Yes.
rye side of it. I get it. I mean, it's definitely got its unique flair.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like the bourbons because it, kind of has one foot into the Scotch territory, which I like ever so often. But no, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, so here we are. This is Thursday night. So this is post-video drop on YouTube night. And we were just thinking about different ideas for podcasts and stuff. And I think tonight's going to be quite the story-filled evolution of one of our favorite places to explore.
We haven't really done our adventure conversation yet, like how we got started, who we were.
Mm-hmm. But not really got into trip ideas and things like that. And so we thought, well, shoot, this is a good opportunity to segue right into that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, recently just still doing the whole shelter-in-place stuff. New Mexico has extended their order until, the middle of May at this point. And, we're itching to go, but we're getting to it. We've got other ideas. We've made a heck of a lot of videos, and we're going to do some backyard camping and just kind of do some walkthroughs of, just the basics of how we trip prep and tips and tricks on how we open and close the rooftop tent, how we stake it down different ways. There's a lot of little things that we don't necessarily show in the video all the time. So it's a good opportunity to show people a little bit more about that side of things.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Other than that, it's just been, status quo homeschooling and stuff like that. And
yep.
How's your online studies going for your degree?
Good. Almost done. We just have about 2 more weeks. Then we'll be finished. Not really sure what's going to happen after that, though.
Yeah.
A lot of that's up in the air still.
Doesn't seem like anyone really knows at this point.
No.
I know that our local counties are really petitioning hard to get things open back up just because there's hardly been any cases in this area. And so they're saying, why are we still locked down? And sometimes it's harder for the higher populated government seats to understand that. And so there's definitely a lot of harsh transition that's going on right now, and a lot of different perspectives, and both having, very valid points on the strategies. So, yeah, it's uncharted territory at this point. But in other news, Caroline has a bit of a lisp now.
Yeah, she's not let this affect her all that much, huh?
Oh, no. She's losing teeth left and right.
3 teeth in 3 weeks.
Oh, my gosh. She's lost both her 2 front teeth. That's the main ones.
Oh, it's the best thing ever. I literally just sit and watch her talk now.
Oh, I know. It's like
I don't look at her eyes. I look straight into that gap right there.
Oh, it's like, listening to someone with a good British accent. Like you just want to listen to them talk.
Yeah.
And she is so cute with her little lisp now that it's quite
like you
entertaining.
don't realize what your tongue is doing until you can watch it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I'm like, oh, I didn't realize we put our tongue at the front of our mouths for that word. And she sings constantly and so loud. Like it's at one volume all the time.
Uh-huh.
Not all the time. 80% of the time it's at one volume. Now with the S's turning into a lisp, it just makes it all the more better. I don't want to tell her to be quiet. I'm trying to study. I'm trying to get my schoolwork done.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell her to be quiet because, one, you don't want to squelch, what if she's going to, turn into an amazing singer-songwriter one day, so you don't want to squelch that.
Right.
But at the same time, it's sis, songs, you can't see my hand motion. Go up and down. Okay? We're not always blazing at 110%.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So.
I tell you what, though, she's got the lungs.
She does.
My goodness.
And the passion.
And the vibrato. Oh, man. Now if we can just get her on key.
She can be for the most part.
Oh, yeah.
But when she makes up her own songs, not so much.
Sure. She's caught up in the creative process. She's not worried about
the two.
being on. That's my excuse. That's why I can't sing.
Oh, that's what it is. You're
I'm
caught in the creative process.
Focused on the creative process that I just can't stay on key, you know.
It makes so much sense.
It just came to me.
Mm.
It just came to me. Anyhow. Well, why don't we get this campfire stoked up here? You know, these New Mexico, even though it's been warm, these New Mexico evenings
cool off fast.
It dips down quick.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're probably in the upper 40s at this point right now.
Mm-hmm.
So just the perfect temperature to get this campfire going here. And
it's true.
Do a little bit of an intro for you.
Let's hear it.
Let's hit it. Welcome, travelers, overlanders, weekend warriors, and daily commuters to Campfire Confessions. We are your hosts, Kevin
and Sarah
McHouston of Lifestyle Overland, a husband and wife duo who travels North America and the world with our daughter, Caroline. This podcast, or fireside chat, is about us, our travels, our stories, and lessons learned while living a lifestyle a bit outside the ordinary. So, go ahead and pour your favorite beverage, pull up a camp chair, and join us as we stoke up this campfire for a bit of warmth and ambiance. Much better. We want to take a moment to thank the sponsors of this show. That's right. These are the folks who keep the wind in our sails, our patrons. These fine folks are listeners, subscribers, and followers like yourself who keep the fuel coming and the adventure rolling. So thank you all who contribute to this adventure. We could not do this without you. If you're interested in supporting this channel and this podcast, join us over at www.patreon.com/lifestyleoverland, where you'll get access to all kinds of cool stuff like bonus videos, GPS coordinates, secret campsites,
early releases,
lots of early releases. Yeah, it's a fun time over there.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a great little community going. So thank you guys again. You're amazing. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's podcast is about one of our favorite overlanding, camping, exploring destinations. Drum roll, please. Death Valley. You know, the first time someone suggested going to Death Valley, like, I think because I wasn't familiar with it, I just conjured up, you know, miles and miles of endless sand dunes, just this barren wasteland or desert. And I thought they were a little bit crazy. Like, why?
I didn't even know it existed till our friends invited us to go along.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't high on our radar, to be honest with you.
No.
And I think the name itself comes off as intimidating right out of the gate, especially for people just getting into it.
Well, and I think at the time our overlanding experience meant mountains. And so it did not, I don't think it registered in my mind to remotely even think about going to a place called Death Valley.
Right. The way that I understand it is the people who actually live in and around that area do not like it being called Death Valley.
What do they call it?
I don't know. But I just know from a few people who live in that general area. I think it's Beatty. Is it Beatty, Arizona, or Beatty, Nevada? That's just outside of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the locals have never really liked the name just because of what it conjures up, that it's not a valley of death necessarily.
Right.
It can be very deadly.
But it's called Death Valley National Park. Like, if it was called something else, but then Death Valley was in it, I could see them coming up being like, oh, we prefer that you would actually call it Valley of the Golden Dirt National Park or something, you know?
Right.
But it's like Death Valley National Park. What else do you want me to call it?
I don't know. I like I said, I'm just purely relaying what was told to me by some locals.
Well, if somebody listens to this and they're from that area and they don't like that it's called Death Valley, tell us what you prefer for it to be called.
Not so alive valley.
I kind of want to know.
Struggling to live valley.
Halfway gone. Not quite here.
The end is near valley, something like that. No, but anyhow.
The light at the end of the tunnel valley.
Right. But, flash forward, what has it been, 4 years now, and 3 different adventures in Death Valley. And oh my gosh, the diversity the different things that you can see, the different trails, the different geological oddities, the different altitudes. I mean, it's quite an incredible place.
Oh yeah, and I feel like we still haven't even seen a lot of it because what's that one something castle?
Oh yeah,
It's always closed.
Scotty's Castle, and it got flooded out. I think just not too many months before we went in for the first time. And so, yeah, there's Scotty's Castle. There's the the Manson Ranch. We actually drove past it on the Mingle Pass Road where Charles Manson was holed up with his crazy people. Yeah, there's several other trails that I'm just itching to get back out there and I would love to spend about 3 weeks. I think with 3 weeks in Death Valley, you could really take your time and explore all of those high points.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't have that much opportunity, and so you kind of have to split it up in,
hit
some
high
more
points.
some more intentional travels. And so we actually have a pretty decent track that we recorded along with waypoints and stuff like that we have on Patreon for people to pull and use as their guide. But yeah, it's a massive place. It's 5,270 square miles, which equates to about 3.4 million acres. And I do believe, if I remember correctly, I think it is the largest national park in the contiguous, I think that's the right word, United States.
What does contiguous mean?
Lower 48.
Oh.
Yeah, because I think there might be 2 national parks in Alaska that are bigger than than Death Valley. But if I remember right, I think it's the biggest one in the lower 48. It's also the hottest place on Earth.
I just find that so hard to believe.
So they recorded a temperature of 134 degrees in the year 1913. That's insane.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I mean, what was the highest temperature that we ever endured was in Scottsdale, Arizona.
I mean, 110?
No, I thought it was 121.
No.
Didn't we hit 121 one day?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
I'm going to have to look that up.
I think it was like 110 was the hottest we ever had.
I remember going outside at midnight and it was 103. So there's no way. It was more than that.
There's no way we would have survived living in that camper at 121 degrees, Kevin. It would have been 90 degrees inside.
And it was about 82. That was the best we could maintain during those times.
I don't know. Google it and see.
Okay, Google. What was the hottest temperature recorded in Scottsdale, Arizona in 2017?
Here's a summary from 12news.com.
Okay, so the hottest temperature recorded in Phoenix
in 2017
was on June 20th, a temperature of 119 degrees. So I'm 2 degrees off.
Okay.
119 degrees. We were living in a fifth wheel camper. We had every blanket that we owned stapled to the walls to help increase the insulation.
It was so ugly in there. And I had just done all of this painting and finishing touches right before we moved out there. And I had to cover it all up.
Mm-hmm. It was the only way to survive. I mean, and during days like that, we were probably low 80s, mid 80s in that camper with both ACs running full tilt. 2 15,000 BTU ACs just wide open.
So usually me and Caroline left.
Yeah, you guys would.
We'd go to the library.
Right.
Or we'd go to Target.
Right.
A lot. I didn't always buy stuff. Usually it was icy and popcorn for Caroline.
Yeah.
But, it's so funny that when we lived there, she barely ever complained about it being hot. Ever. And that's hot over there.
Right.
And here, it's 83 degrees and we go for a walk and she's like, Mom, I think I need a break. It's so hot. Oh, excuse me. It's so hot.
It's so hot.
And I'm like, sis, it's only getting hotter from here.
Oh, that's just mostly because she gets bored easily now.
That's true.
That's
really what it is.
Yeah. You try to go on a hike with that kid, if it's flat ground and paved, she's miserable. You give that girl a 36-degree incline with boulders and briars and bears, she's in heaven.
She's in heaven.
She's like, come on, Mom and Dad, let's go. Let's see what's up here. So I'm glad she enjoys a struggle. But anyhow, back to Death Valley facts.
Yes.
It's also the lowest place in the United States. Do you remember how low? How far below sea level is the lowest point in Death Valley?
Oh, I don't remember. I remember the plaque on the rock showing
Right.
where sea level was and how far down you were. But
Take a guess.
I don't know. I'm probably going to guess
No.
way off.
I'm really curious now.
No, like 300 feet.
Ooh, 282.
Oh, okay. So I did good.
Yeah, good job.
Because you know what I almost said?
What?
Like 1,200.
Well, you know what's interesting? I got curious as I was looking this up, and the lowest place below sea level in the world is at the Dead Sea, and it's 1,360 feet below sea level.
Dang.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. That's like you have your ocean and your land,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
it's like donk.
Dude, like a huge earthquake and like crack into the ocean up there, that would be wild, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Anyhow, what's strange though is that even though it's the lowest place in the United States, it's only 76 miles from Mount Whitney, which is the tallest point in the United States.
What do you mean 76 miles from?
So the lowest point in the U.S. is only 76 miles from the highest point in the U.S.
So if you just drive 76 miles, you're at Mount Whitney?
Yes.
I didn't realize Mount Whitney was in California.
Okay, Google. Where is Mount Whitney?
Here's a map of Mount Whitney, California.
There you go.
Okay.
Google has spoken.
She has fixed a lot of problems tonight.
Yeah, I think it's 14,200 something. I didn't write that down, but anyhow, just a very unique geological location.
Mm-hmm.
No freaking doubt. But the best time to visit Death Valley, and this is important to remember, is somewhere between November and March. Towards the middle of that would be probably a little bit better. Like I would suggest,
Like January, February.
Yeah, well, I would say mid-December, and then I would also say on the other side around February. Like that's going to be your sweet spots.
Mm-hmm.
But any given time in that whole thing can really jack you up because the problem is there's so much difference in altitude.
Right.
So depending on where you are and where
Right.
you're planning on traveling, you could really find
You
yourself.
could run into snow.
That's it. Well, like in the wintertime, so let's just say if you wanted to go in January, well, that's all fine and well, but you might not be able to get in there depending on where you're coming from.
Right. Because didn't they have a blizzard last year?
Seems like it.
Something crazy like that. blew
I
through.
know we had some friends who were trying to get in there and they couldn't even make it in because of the snowdrifts.
Snowdrifts, yeah.
But once you got into the valley,
It was different.
60s and 70s.
Right.
So that's the weird thing. But then in the springtime, which is when we've always gone,
Mm-hmm.
you have the wind.
Yeah, we've always gone in March or April, right?
I think late February and March is kind of the time frame that we typically have gone.
Oh, okay.
But we'll get more into the wind later. And if you've
Yeah.
watched our videos, you already know Sarah's experiences there. But the cool part is in the spring is your biggest chance for rain. And if you do get a nice rain, you get what's called a super bloom.
Yeah.
And that's when this barren desert explodes into just colorful life. And it's
Yeah. Now, it doesn't look like a springtime garden super bloom. Like,
right.
you need to think, like, yes, there is a lot of flowers, and in certain areas, it may be personified as super bloom, but, like, we went 2 times during a super bloom, and we were like, I mean, there's some flowers right there, but is this considered a super bloom?
Yeah, and I think, like you're saying, some places were better than others, but I think some of that might have been a bit of marketing on the National Park Service's side of
Sure.
things to
Mhm.
get people to come
see
in.
our super bloom in the desert.
But it is definitely a unique experience.
Definitely, yeah.
Because when you get, large areas, get some pretty cool photos to see the desert with that life
when you
in it.
can tout that you're the hottest place on the earth,
Yeah,
and you can also tout that you've had a super bloom, then
it's pretty impressive.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So just, right out the gate, let's just kind of dispel a few things or confirm a few things if she may find it.
Mm-hmm.
So all that being said, we're not trying to downplay the dangers that come with Death Valley. I mean, it is probably some of the more remote places that you're going to find in the Southwest.
Yeah.
Obviously the dangers are going to be heat, floods. It doesn't take much rain, so to create a pretty incredible flood. So you want to be mindful of where you're camping, especially if you have forecasts that are calling for any type of precipitation, scorpions, rattlesnakes, and then the occasional old naked guy,
Yeah.
believe it or not. So
That could happen.
it has happened. And we'll tell more about that here in just a minute. So if you're not intrigued yet,
So what are some important things that you should take with you if you're going into Death Valley?
yeah, so definitely fuel is important, especially if you're going to go deep. If you're looking at going to the saline springs or something like that, you want to bring them. People always ask how much fuel. I always try and say, because people have different fuel.
Capacities.
Well, they have different mile per gallons
Sure.
based on their rig. So Always suggest bringing at least 70 to 100 miles worth of extra fuel. Obviously, extra water, maybe a way to filter water, extra provisions, and then definitely emergency communications. You know, since day one, we've always carried, used to it was called a DeLorme. Then it was bought out by Garmin. Now it's the Garmin InReach. And we've used that to carry as a SOS device, but it's also really handy just to check in.
So that somebody knows where we are.
Right. So you can text people via satellite. So when you don't have signal, you can still get out and say, hey, we're still good. And then they can also ping your location. So if they haven't heard from you, they can actually ping that and see where you're currently located. So those are some things that I would definitely recommend someone. Number one, you should always carry that with you, to be honest with you. But especially when you're going into Death Valley. So when was our first trip into Death Valley?
It was in 2016. We got invited by some friends that were stationed in California. And they enjoyed camping and backpacking and stuff in their youth. They had said, let's, meet up here and hang out together. And then we would go and hang out with them at their house afterwards.
Right. Yeah, so we met them in California. And so we didn't get a lot of opportunity to do a bunch of research before we got in there. Yeah, I was going to say,
we didn't, if I remember right, not that we went blind, but we didn't really go with a lot of information.
Yeah, well,
Evan did more of it. Yeah?
Evan pretty much, he had his high points that he wanted to hit. And so we were just going to kind of follow along with him. But he had a pop-up camper that he had outfitted with some taller tires and leaf springs and stuff like that. And so we kind of had this idea that we could get into most places. And that was when we were really starting to get into Gaia GPS and get familiar with it. And so we had actually found a few camping alternatives on the outside of the national park. Just
so we
to
didn't
save
have
some
to
money.
camp in campgrounds.
And so, we ended up camping on what's called the pads. So it's just south of I think it's the Furnace Creek entrance. Yeah. And it's just like an old abandoned trailer park that was there, I think, for the mines or something. And we were kind of up on the hill from there. So we weren't actually on the pads. We were kind of away from the crowds and stuff. And man,
we had found such a sweet spot.
Overlooking
great views.
I think it's called the Funeral Mountains that are just to the east of it there. Just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, there's just so many cool pictures of Caroline and stuff, like drinking her hot chocolate in the morning.
That's one of my favorite pictures.
Oh, yeah. Good times.
She had to have that every morning.
Right. Yeah, that was a really fun place to camp right there. And, every day it was just perfect weather, a little bit cool enough to wear a jacket, 0 wind. And we thought, we have found it.
This is their new favorite spot.
Yeah, this was stinking awesome.
Yeah.
But then things changed a little bit.
Yeah. So we had decided, when we had met, we picked our camp spot and then we camped immediately that night. We didn't get to go and do anything when we first met up. And so then the second day we kind of took it slow because we were catching up with each other, and we went into town, into Furnace Creek, and checked around there and did 20 Mule Canyon or something like that, right?
Uh-huh.
And then we decided, let's go back and let's do a big dinner and campfire, yada, yada, yada. And still beautiful, beautiful. So on our second full day there, we decided we were going to try and hit a majority of the things that Evan had wanted us to see.
Yeah.
So when we started out, we went up Echo Canyon, right?
Right.
And then from there, where did we go?
Well, once you come out Echo Canyon, you kind of go back out of the park and you hit some BLM land out there. And that was kind of uncharted territory for us. We were, watching the Gaia GPS app and stuff and trying to figure out how to link up to Titus Canyon.
Right.
We might have got a little distracted. It was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah.
But
high speed running through the desert.
Yeah, you guys definitely fulfilled some childhood dreams right there.
Oh, it was just absolutely.
Hey, now you drive past me really fast, okay?
Oh yeah. That was awesome. Especially, a couple of country boys from Tennessee who never really had the opportunity to run and gun like that in the wide open desert was pretty stinking awesome.
Oh yeah, definitely. I just remember Evan's wife Shelly was pregnant, 6 months pregnant.
I think she was 7
closer,
months.
7 months,
yeah,
something.
That's an important fact.
And at one point, we were doing these like kind of whoops
Yeah.
pretty quickly.
Uh-huh.
And I thought to myself, I don't know how she is handling this right now. Because they're, no offense, Jeep owners, they're in a Jeep.
Yeah.
And like, not even after me thinking that over the radio, Evan goes, "Hey, I need to slow down. Shelly's getting uncomfortable." And I was like, I was wondering when she was going to say something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Last thing we needed was a Death Valley baby right there.
Yeah.
Jeez.
No thanks.
Yeah. We had a blast though, but we burnt a little bit too much time
Mm-hmm.
playing around to make it to Titus Canyon. But when we did, oh my gosh, like, talk about gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for the first half, because that's what we could see. The second half
But it was still cool getting to do that because
Yeah.
when the sun was going down, it was shining on the rocks and it was a whole other
It's true.
color story.
That's
know?
true. But yeah, so we're down in Titus Canyon, and as you get further and further down, the walls get taller and taller and taller, and so we're just going along having a blast. We've got all of our LED lights on, and it feels like you're driving through a cave
Yeah, it really does. It
because
was so
it's
dark.
pitch black
Yeah.
outside, and it literally felt like we were driving through this just enormous cave. So it was a cool experience.
It was. Night runs are fun too.
They really are. They really are. And if you've already done Titus Canyon in the past, maybe you try doing it at night just to kind of get a different experience, because that was our first experience.
Yeah.
Was in the dark.
Right.
And it was gorgeous. It was really awesome. But what happened when we came out the other side?
Well, being in that canyon, it really turns almost into like a slot canyon kind of feel. And so you're very sheltered from everything that's going outside of it. And then when we came out of it into like a whirlwind death trap.
Yeah, that wind was whipping about 50 miles an hour when we came out the other side.
At least.
It was bad. But it was a good hour drive
Uh-huh.
from where we popped out
Right.
through
To get
Furnace
down
Creek to get back to the pads.
camp. Yeah. And so we're just getting blown all over the road and we're like, guys, if it's like this here, what's it going to be like
Up on the
up
shelf.
on the shelf where our camp is?
Exposed.
Yes.
360-degree view, baby.
Yeah. Like just on the top, looking it over.
Look at this view.
Yeah. So needless to say, when we get there, we had our turtleback trailer, and we left everything open minus the kitchen, but we had the tent open. And did we even have the awning out?
We had the awning wasn't out, but we had the annex on the
That's
tent.
right, on
Yeah.
the tent.
Yeah.
And then our friends had a pop-up camper. And so when we get up there, our rooftop tent was folded over, and I'm pretty sure our poop tent was fallen over too.
It
right?
wasn't just falling over, but there was a bucket with poop
With poop.
in there that had fallen over with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the situation.
Yeah. So when we pulled in, we were like, oh no. And Kev was like, I don't think we can sleep in our tent tonight if this was folding over as it was.
Yeah, we pulled it all back out again, and I don't know, we hadn't had very many nights in a rooftop tent to start with.
Right.
But we pulled it all, we opened it back up, we staked it back down as best as we could. We parked the 4Runner in front of it and like lashed the tent to the 4Runner, and we crawled up in it, and guys, the wind was blowing so hard, Sarah and I had to yell at each other.
Yeah.
In order to hear each other. And we were like, there's no way
we're going to sleep through this.
We're going to sleep up here. Not to mention the fact that we're afraid to tear this brand new tent.
Yeah. We didn't know its capabilities.
No.
We probably would have been just fine.
Knowing what we do now.
Yeah.
Knowing what we do now. But so at that point we decided, shoot, bail out. Because we still needed to eat supper. I remember now, we still needed to eat supper. So what we did
that's right.
is we went over into Evan and Shelley's. When I say pop-up camper, I mean
like the classic canvas pop-up.
And tiny.
Yeah.
And tiny. So it's two twin beds on opposite sides.
Full.
And so they said, well, fold your tent down, come on over to our tent. We'll cook some dinner on our. And so we scrunched inside this miniature pop-up camper.
Yeah.
And
luckily our kids were little.
Yeah. So we had Mountain House.
Yep.
Huge shout out to Mountain House. They do not sponsor us, but their food is amazing.
The Chili Mac.
Chili Mac with some bread.
Yeah, because that was Evan's favorite.
A little bit of toast.
Yeah.
Probably the best grit-filled dinner I've ever had in my life. But yeah, we had good times in there. And again, could hardly talk just because of the wind was slapping the sides of the canvas so much. And they're like, well, you guys just want to sleep in here, or at least, I mean, like, not really sleep, but just pile into a corner and stay out of the wind all night.
Yeah.
And so we did that.
So they were over on one side, and then
How old was Eli?
he's a year older than Caroline.
Yeah,
So he was 4 and she was 3.
So it was a pregnant woman,
Uh-huh.
a 7 months pregnant woman, Evan.
Who's like, what, your height, 6'2"?
Yeah. And Eli, who was
4.
all on one side, and then me, Sarah, and Caroline on the other side. And like, it's just basically perma-spoon. Like, that's the only position that you could get in.
Nobody was rolling.
And you couldn't hear yourself think. So we were laying there. And when I say dozed off, I mean, like, got to a point psychologically where you're like, okay, this is just my life for tonight.
Yeah. I'm just going to at least rest my brain.
And so just as we're starting to relax, quote unquote, guys, a gust hit.
So hard.
It hit so hard that it twisted. And I don't know if it was like a vortex or, like a cyclone or what, but it twisted the camper so much so that it popped the door open.
Yeah.
And this wind came inside. And so plates and spoons and cups and stuff.
Bread and napkins.
It went flying everywhere.
Everywhere.
We literally, in that instant, because we were so groggy, we were like, Sarah said a bad word.
I did say a bad word.
She said, get the bleep to the Forerunner.
And what was funny is Caroline's already out.
Oh, yeah, she's gone. She's gone. So we take off running, and we jump in the Forerunner. They jump in their Jeep, and we're all like, what
do we do?
What just happened? So we get on the CB to talk to each other because we both had CBs, and we're like, dude, what the heck was that? Because we estimated 50, 60 mile an hour sustained when we went to bed. And then this gust hit and almost ripped their camper apart.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're like, I guess we're just going to have to camp out in the cars. That's the safest thing to do at this point.
Yeah.
And we had actually taken ratchet straps and parked our vehicles in front of their pop-up camper and ratchet strapped their camper to the vehicles. It wasn't sitting out by itself, y'all.
Yeah.
It was in a V formed by the vehicles.
Right.
We were afraid that the wind was going to blow so hard it was going to turn over the Forerunner.
Yeah, I remember.
It was moving that much.
I remember like tailwinds coming and literally feeling like myself like rise up in the seat. Like her poor little butt was just getting picked up.
Yeah. So we slept in the Forerunner that night, and I would hold Caroline for an hour, and then we would switch. And Caroline would hold
Sarah. Sarah would hold Caroline for a little
So we would swap back, and we had so much crap in the Forerunner because we were still learning how to pack.
Well, but we had also just literally thrown everything in there too.
Oh, that's
like
true.
All of our bedding.
That's true.
So that we could close down the tent and all of that. So
yeah, we were not prepared. So that was our welcome to Death Valley. You thought it was just this little cakewalk, and then it slapped you in the face, and that's what Death Valley can do.
Literally, I remember for a year after that, when we went camping, if it got the least bit windy, I was like,
it did, and honestly, like, it would give us anxiety when we were back in our fifth wheel camper.
That's true. I remember them like not really being worried about it. But then just because of that, being like, will this camper actually be okay?
Yeah, it honestly, it traumatized us just a little bit.
It did.
But that was our introduction to Death Valley.
So with that, we decided a year later that we were going to go back with the Herd of Turtle trip.
That's right. Yeah. Hey, it can't be that bad.
No. It won't happen to us again.
No, that was an exceptional event. And I remember having this conversation with you because
I didn't want to go.
No.
I was like, I've been there, done that, not going back.
But I was so impressed with the little bit that we had seen. And I knew there was so much more. I was like, no, babe, don't worry about it. That's going to happen from time to time. And maybe it'll be a little windy, but it's not going to be 80 miles an hour again. Well, we're driving on our way there, listening to the weather report, watching a haboob dust storm form in front of us.
Yep.
And I realized we're driving straight into the teeth of the storm yet again.
And at night.
Yeah, the sun was setting, coming in at night. And so what did I start to do?
So we decided to watch. Let me preface this. We decided before, when we knew we wanted to talk about Death Valley, we decided we would go back and watch our videos, right?
Right.
So there's one of them, and it's this trip that we're going out, and Kevin decides to film us having the conversation about, hey, looks like we're driving straight up into a haboob, and it's probably going to be super windy again. And I said, we're going to find a hotel. I'm
Mhm.
not doing that again. So in the video, his voiceover says, with all the hotels being booked up. And tonight I literally looked at him and I said, they were not booked up. I remember I had found 2 that we could have gone to. But we would have paid $200 for it. But we would have
Now-
slept. Guys, I'm literally holding my tongue from saying so many naughty words. Because I cannot tell you how, like, this literally just makes me so mad. It literally makes me so mad.
Okay. But here's the thing that you're not bringing up. So the hotels that we started calling, the Holiday Inns, the Hampton Inns, the Fairfield Glades, whatever, those are all booked up. So the ones that Sarah is talking to, the names of these hotels make you question exactly what kind of hotel they are, because they're in Nevada, and these particular counties of Nevada.
Now you are taking a whole other stretch on this.
So
That was not the type of hotels that I was calling.
So these hotels offer, shall we say, turn down service? Yeah. So in those particular counties of Nevada, the oldest profession in the world is still considered legal. And so the names of these hotels that she's reading off to me that she's called are somewhat questionable. And so that's it.
not.
That's all I'm saying is, like, I would rather sleep in a windy tent than with Wendy. You know what I'm saying?
If that's how you would like to tell the story, that's fine. But that's not how it was.
I think that makes a great story, though.
It makes a great
The
story.
only
That's
hotels
not
that
true.
were available were with the ladies of the night.
That's not the reality.
Okay. So anyhow, what did we do instead?
We go back to the same dang place. But Kev says, but this time we won't go up on the hill.
No.
We'll stay down here.
Yeah.
It'll be different.
Yeah, we'll get down here out of the wind. That didn't work.
And yet again, we pull in super late.
So y'all, I'm setting up the tent. Like, Sarah will not, I'll never forget this. Sarah refuses to get out of the 4Runner.
Yeah. You're literally like, aren't you coming to help me? I said, no, I am not. Because I had found 2 hotels we could have gone to.
And so I get out and I'm laughing at her, and I shut the door and a gust hits and it almost knocks me off my feet. And so I'm going, this is probably not the smartest move. But anyhow, I start setting up the tent, and I get a bunch of polycord, parachute cord, and I'm like putting extra lashes like across the tent, tying it down, like trying to reduce the flapping and stuff. And I get it all ready. And I'm like, okay, babe, now we can get on up in bed now. And we climb up there, and it's in the video. I think it's the Death Valley Herded Turtles Part 1.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just a few little clips, but the wind was blowing so hard. Number one, again, you couldn't hear yourself think. And they said that it hit 80 mile an hour gusts that night. I don't know if
we went down to Furnace Creek.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what hit us, but I know it had to be pretty crazy. But I had my feet on the crossbars of the tent from the direction of the wind, and I give it kudos. That design is freaking tough. And so the end of the tent was moving about 3/4 to 1 inch. You know, the physical metal poles were moving that much. And so I slept with my feet kind of on those, so that if it did decide to collapse, I would kind of have a bit of a warning. But I tell you what, it got worse at 4:00 that morning. And we decided, yeah, maybe this thing will stand up to it. Maybe it won't. But, we've got several days here in Death Valley. We don't want to destroy our tent on the first night.
True.
So it's 4 a.m. We've gotten a bit of rest. I wouldn't call it sleep. So we folded up.
Well, and my thing is that for me personally, is that if it was, no, I really wasn't sleeping. I was dozing, resting, going in and out of consciousness, whatever.
Right.
But so long as I'm laying down,
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Right. Well, at least it was rocking you to sleep.
Yeah.
So yeah, at 4 a.m., I'm like, hey, I'm
Mm.
afraid this tent's going to come apart.
Yeah.
Hindsight, I don't think it would have.
No.
Hindsight, I think that tent,
Caroline was sleeping like a dream.
I think that tent would sustain probably a 90 plus mile an hour gust just because of the way the canvas works with the way that the poles are designed and stuff. So now, flash forward, I sleep just fine in a windstorm. If we've got earplugs,
Yeah.
those are
That
really,
makes it much better.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes have a hard time using those because I'm always like Mr. Alert, listening to my surroundings. But anyhow, you never know when a squatch is going to sneak up on you and steal your jerky or anything
Or
like
a
that.
bear come and blow hot air on your hand.
Hey, I'm pretty sure that happened.
So with that being said, we ended up moving to the car,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And slept there for, about 2.5, 3 hours until the sun came back up.
Yeah. And little Caroline pops her little head up. Good morning, everybody.
What are we doing in the Forerunner?
What are you doing in the car?
Yeah,
In a Forerunner.
Forerunner. She still says that to
I
this
know.
day.
I love it.
I have a hard time correcting her.
Yeah.
So yeah, welcome back to Death Valley. Here's you an hour and a half of fitful sleep.
Guys, I
80
was
mile an hour winds.
still so mad.
She was ready to go home at that point.
I was like, there's no point in us staying.
Right.
But we were like, well, let's go down to Furnace Creek, get some coffee, and see what the weather's going to be. Because I told Kev, I said, if it's going to be windy tonight, because it was still blasting wind all morning.
Yeah, that's true.
And I said, if it's going to be windy tonight, I'm going home.
What was funny was when we drove back out of there, like there were dome tents and stuff that were completely collapsed. Like snapped, like graphite poles completely snapped. And you would see people in their like
In their
Priuses or whatever with their mouth agape with their head back.
Yep.
Just sleeping in their cars. So yeah, it was legit.
It wasn't just us.
But finally at that point is when our Death Valley experience started turning around though, because we got out of there, did Echo Canyon again to Mesquite Campground. That was a beautiful stay. Got up the next day and went up to the Ubehebe Crater. And
It was a little breezy that night, but it wasn't.
oh yeah, we
it
were
wasn't,
fine.
yeah.
We were fine. So we were used to it at that point anyhow.
Yeah.
But
Plus, I probably had plenty of wine.
oh yeah, I think in the video we mentioned that just a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A little sleep aid.
Yeah.
So we went to the Ubehebe after that. That's a weird name. Ubehebe. It's like the heebie-jeebies.
That's what it's called, right?
Yeah. Ubehebe.
Do you have it up there?
I think it's
Ubehebe.
Shoshone for big hole in ground.
Oh my god.
I researched what that what it was because I thought that it was like an old volcano cone or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, what happened was
Tell us.
a little bit of history lesson because I like to talk about
Tell us
the
your.
land we're traveling.
Tell us your true facts.
Who came before us and all those things.
Yeah.
Sarah likes to make fun of me for it.
Everybody, pull up a chair.
Throw a log on that campfire. Yeah.
We're gonna be here a little bit longer.
A little bit longer. No, I'll go through this real quick. So basically, you have varying levels of water tables and stuff in the ground, and in Death Valley, you also have a unique thing where you have a lot of thermal springs and much further down, hot magma. At some point in time, and don't quote me on this, but I think it's between 900 and 3,000 years ago, the hot magma came up through the ground and contacted this water table. And what it did is as soon as it hit it, it turned it into steam and basically created a bomb. And it blew this crater out of the ground. And I think it's like 600 and something feet deep and half
a
mile or
mile.
3/4 mile across.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine today, we're out here camping in Death Valley. And all of a sudden, like this mountainside just explodes.
No.
Like,
I would have thought somebody had bombed us.
well, that's essentially what, and I mean, that's a big old bomb. So yeah, there you have Ubehebe Crater. And that's the first artifact along our little adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And so from there we left and we're going up. I can't remember the name of that trail at this point, but we went up to Tea Kettle Junction, which no one really knows the history of. I tried researching it, but basically travelers from many, many, many years ago, maybe 100 plus years ago, would hang a tea kettle on a fence post at this particular junction in the roads. And it just became a tradition. And so people would take a tea kettle and leave a tea kettle. And so today it's mostly just people leaving them. And I think there's a off-road club that like comes out and cleans them up every so often just because there gets to be so many of them. But it's just a tradition. If you're going to Death Valley, take a tea kettle, put your name on it, hang it out there on the signpost. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's neat.
And then probably about 4 miles from that, you come across what's called the Racetrack Playa, or the racetrack. What's unique about this is it has traveling rocks. And if you look at these rocks, you can see skid marks from where these rocks have moved, not just a few feet, hundreds of yards across
this
the
lake
floor
bed or whatever
of the desert. And usually when you're there, it's dry as a bone. But there's some interesting studies that have been done over the years. Like, people suspected everything from extremely high winds to alien encounters. Like, I mean, the theories have been all over the place, but eventually they figured out what it was, is that during certain times of the year, and it's generally fairly rare that this happens, but there's enough rain to put a couple of inches of water on the salt flat, and then it gets cold enough at night to freeze it. And if there's any kind of wind the next morning, when the bottom of it starts to thaw out, now you have this very, very thin layer of ice across this desert floor. And just the static wind across the top of it moves that ice. So it becomes a very thin iceberg. So when it contacts these boulders, it slowly pushes them across this muddy lake bed at the time.
That's so crazy.
And so people would come out, obviously after this event had taken place, and they'd look and go, how did this 100-pound rock move from that mountain over there over here to this?
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah. It's so unreal.
And that's not it. That's just getting started. That's just the oddities keep coming. So from there, you get on Lippincott Pass and make your way down. And Lippincott, like, you drove it.
Yeah, it's no joke. Especially your first time, it can be a little daunting, for sure.
What would be your suggestions or advice to someone who's traveling Lippincott? Because you did it with a trailer.
Yeah. I mean, it's a severe drop-off on the driver's side, because anytime we've always done it this one specific way. Down. And so if you're going down, it's a severe drop-off on the driver's side. So just legit taking your time.
Right.
That's the only.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the key to really anything that you're not very comfortable with, is just take your time and plot out your course well.
And there wasn't anything too technical about it, other than there's a couple of washouts where the camber
was a little sketchy.
A little bit of pucker factor.
Yeah.
Yeah. But beautiful. Beautiful drive. And as you come down, you start to see the Saline Valley on the other side, and it's otherworldly.
Definitely.
And then you get down into the Saline Valley, and if you head, I think it's north from there, you work your way out to the Saline Hot Springs. And the Saline Hot Springs, and that's really kind of the meat of the story here, because that's our favorite part.
It is. In
the whole park. It's not something that you're going to find on a park map.
And if you ask a park ranger about it, they're going to say they don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they generally, it's not widely publicized, because it's kind of the, it's kind of one of these areas in the national park that people have just decided to look the other way on.
Because it's been around for so long.
It's been around since the 60s. And the whole area was basically established when it was a national monument, not a national park.
Right.
I think that it was in maybe the 70s or early 80s is when they actually annexed that as part of the national park. But out here in the middle of the desert, 3 hours from civilization, you have these hot springs that are bubbling up out of the ground in the middle of nowhere. And back in the 60s, I'll just call it what it is, these hippies started taking a few bags of Quikrete and some tile and a palm tree here and a palm tree there. And every weekend they would come out from I don't know, was it Baker, California, that's close to there, and
Yeah.
and they would come out and they started building these pools,
To catch the water.
and they mixed it with some cool springs that were out there as well. And over the course of several years, they basically took this wilderness and y'all made it into a paradise.
I would say an oasis.
She says an oasis. I call it a paradise.
Well, but let's think of this. We didn't consider it a paradise till the second time we had gone to the springs.
That's true.
The first time we went,
So the first time, this was in 2017,
that
We-
we had seen the springs.
we come off Lippincott Pass, and we've been told by Dave, who was then the owner of Turtleback, that, hey, there's these hot springs that we're going to go out to, and there was a bit of joking that there might be a few naked people, blah, 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 like, haha, sure, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're driving into the hot springs, and we look over, and sure enough, there's several naked people just letting it all hang out,
Yeah.
which was a totally new experience for us.
Right.
I wouldn't say that we're prudes, but we're
Right.
not.
But yeah.
Yeah. So like that was a bit odd at first.
Yeah.
And so we kind of set up camp a little ways off of the springs.
Yeah, because there's two sections.
Yeah. So the lower springs, which is where it all happens.
That's the original birthplace of this.
Right. And then there's the mid springs, which is somewhat been understood to be the family area,
Right.
from what we've been told.
There's only 2 pools up there, and they're
Right.
much bigger. Like probably like 12 to 15 people could fit in those.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we get set up, and everyone's like, now if you're awkward with the nudity, don't worry. You can go up after dark, and no one carries flashlights, so you can enjoy the springs and blah blah blah. So we did that, and it was absolutely
Oh, so nice.
phenomenal.
The water was just the right temperature.
Yeah.
Caroline was in heaven. Homegirl loves to be in the water.
Yeah. And what's funny, like as we're talking about this, I'm thinking about someone who tagged us in a post on Instagram. It's probably been about a month or two ago, who went out to Death Valley.
Mm-hmm.
And they're videoing this guy in front of them who's carrying his chair, and he's buck ass naked and just walking up the road. And they were flipping out like, oh my gosh, there's a naked guy right here. And that was probably internally what we were feeling too.
Oh,
the first time around.
Yeah,
It was
definitely
weird.
the first time around. It was like you saw a butt and you're like, oh, look the other way,
It was
avert your eyes.
Yeah, it was very, very awkward. But so we got set up and had a great time. But we learned a hard lesson the first night. Do you remember what went down?
Don't leave anything out.
What else is in Death Valley besides rattlesnakes?
Burros.
Wild
Burros.
burros. Do you know why they're there? Before we get into that.
I do.
Oh, do tell.
So from Kevin's schooling,
Uh-huh.
the teacher pet will answer the question. So what had happened is there's mining for salt.
Well, there's a lot of mines.
There's a lot of mines up there.
There's
The white stuff-
borax.
yeah.
Borax was the number one thing, but then there was also a lot of gold, silver, and talc.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that being said, miners had donkeys or burros to help cart equipment, diggings, all of that stuff.
All right.
So whenever the mine closed or shut down, instead of carting everything out, they just left it all, including the burros. And the burros kept making baby burros. And now there are wild burros in Death Valley National Park.
Right. And particularly around the hot springs.
Yeah.
Pretty bad.
Yeah. Some of them are big too.
Yeah.
They're not just like the mini ones.
Not a mini burrow,
Not a mini burro.
a big old burrow.
They're a big old burro.
So yeah, that first night we had heard, hey, make sure you put everything up, because these burros, they're inquisitive, they'll get in your trash, blah blah blah. And so with the turtleback, no problem. Shh, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah,
We
lock
shut
everything up, no big deal.
lock everything up, trash in the trasharoo. We were golden.
Mhm.
And we go to bed, and it's a nice still
Oh,
night.
it is.
And we're obviously tired from the previous night's winds and stuff, and so we were just sleeping like babies.
Yeah, we had gone to the hot pool first, and then we came
Yeah.
down, and like We were all cozy
We
and
were
cuddly. There was a
relaxed.
little breeze. I remember all the windows are open.
Right. And we had probably a couple of glasses of wine,
Yep.
and we were just as relaxed as we could be. And like, I would say that was probably the experience that started turning our opinion of Death Valley.
Right. But we were like, oh, okay, we can get
Yeah,
into
this is what this
free
is about.
jacuzzis.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Sign us up. So yeah, we were living high on life. And then about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
I feel like it was right before sunrise.
Yeah, it was early morning.
Because, like, we could see. When you looked out, you could see.
Well, the moon was up,
Oh.
but you hear clip clop, clip clop, clip clop, clip clop. And I'm like, oh, that must be the burros people have been talking about. That's cool. And clip clop, clip clop, and it gets closer, and it gets closer, and then all of a sudden, the whole trailer starts rocking back and forth.
Boom.
And I'm like, what's going on? So
And
I'm
I'm
like,
thinking it's Kevin, like, flipping and flopping and moving around. I'm like, what are you doing?
so,
And he's, like, scrambling outside of the tent, like, running out the door.
yeah, so I'm in my BVDs.
Yeah.
That's it. And what happened is I popped my head out the window to start with, and here's this burro trying to rip the trasharoo off of the back of the turtleback.
Yep.
And that's so the tailgate's open, and that's why the whole trailer is moving and stuff. And I'm like, hey, get out of here. And then all of a sudden I see it pick something up and walk away and then throw it up in the air and slam it on the ground. And I'm like,
What
well,
did
that
you
was
get?
weird. Maybe
Yeah.
he stole something from another camp or whatever. And then I hear it pick it up again. And the second time it goes slosh, slap. And I go, oh my gosh, this burro has stolen our box of wine.
But where did we leave it that he got to it?
We forgot
Was
it.
it just on the tailgate?
We forgot it because it was on the table and we had like shoved it up in that corner right there.
Oh,
And that was one thing that we missed when we cleaned up.
okay.
And this burro had grabbed our box of wine and was in the process of ripping it open. And so I come down out of there and I'm chasing this burro through camp in my BVDs.
Yep.
And finally it drops the bag. At this point, it's a bag. The box has been ripped off of it.
Uh-huh.
Drops the bag of wine. And we're not necessarily lushes, so it's still
No.
pretty freaking full. And I'm like, I don't want to waste all this. So I
Uh-huh.
pick it up and I carry it back and I put it in a plastic sack. And it's, wine's leaking everywhere. But long story short, we ended up the next morning putting it into a water bottle.
Uh-huh. Because we're like, hey, we still got a couple more days.
yeah, and salvaging what was
Well, we
left of
could.
the wine. But that,
And to this day, I actually still have part of the box.
well, here's the thing. The next day, we're talking about it. We're telling the story, and the wind starts to pick up. And we'd actually gone out and looked for the rest of it just to make sure we got our trash cleaned up.
Mm.
Couldn't find it. We're making breakfast, and the wind picks up. And what comes rolling into camp was the cardboard box
Mm-hmm.
for the box of wine.
That's right.
Where is it now?
I think I have it in a box in storage somewhere.
We kept that box.
Yeah.
We're
Because
gonna.
I was like, I want to put this in a shadow box.
So one day we're gonna frame this cheapo cardboard
Uh-huh.
box of wine
The damn burro wine.
from this burro who stole our wine in Death Valley.
He's the local drunk.
He is. So there was a lot of jokes that came from that the next day.
So many jokes.
So many. But yeah, that was our introduction to the hot springs and our introduction to the
Actually,
burros
and appreciating Death Valley.
yeah, at that point, like now, yeah, it was miserable, but no other place do we have so many cool stories and experiences
Mhm.
from than we do from Death Valley. And every time we go there, it challenges us in a new way. So we went back again in 2018 with a
Mhm.
much different perspective at that point.
Right. We had just decided we were going full time. The trip was later that year. It was
Yeah.
in April. The
Yeah.
first weekend of April or something.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So we were just wrapping up a lot of our prep work.
Yep.
To head to Alaska at that point.
Mhm.
And that was our shakedown run of a lot of the mods and stuff that we had done, the new
Yep.
suspension that was on the turtleback and things like that. Or maybe it wasn't on yet. No, suspension wasn't on
yet.
until after Expo.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyhow, we head back into Death Valley this next time, and we've already talked about it with other herd members and we're like, screw this. Let's just get to the hot springs as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So the first night we stayed on Echo Canyon just to kind of show people the touristy stuff and do Badwater Basin and show, 282 feet below
Furnace Creek,
all that stuff. And then we booked it for the hot springs, did Lippincott, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Again, spent a lot of time on Lippincott because someone busted an axle
Yep.
on Lippincott. So I spent 2 or 3 hours,
Mm-hmm.
2 trips, getting this guy back off of there.
Yeah.
But that was still a fun experience. I enjoy that challenge.
Yeah.
But then we finally got down there to the hot springs
Mm-hmm.
and spent a few days. And we were actually camping with Justin and Claire and Kane of 230 USA. So if you've ever bought anything from 230, you've probably dealt with Justin at some point. He's Australian and Claire's from New Zealand and just salt of the earth kind of people. And so we were hanging out with them. And at this point, so the next trip, we actually stayed at the Lower Springs,
Yeah.
which is kind of where the party happens.
Yeah.
And much more comfortable at this point with the whole
Well, we had
concept.
actually had some new Turtleback trailer owners who come out to the hot springs like once a month. Do you remember that couple?
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember their names.
Yeah,
but
they were frequent visitors. But
yeah, so they're like, no, stay down here at the lower part. This is where it's fun. And we were like, okay.
Yeah. But we had a very different perspective of it at that point. We had time to kind of adjust, and the nudity side of it wasn't a big deal for whatever reason during this trip. It was just like
we were just there to have a good time.
we were there to have a good time. Once you get over the initial shock of it,
Mm-hmm.
and you go out and actually experience them and you enjoy them yourself, you realize that it's not that big of a deal.
No.
We're all born this way.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of people who have varying degrees of comfort with it, but we had definitely kind of
Relaxed a lot.
relaxed quite a bit. So it wasn't a big deal for us. But, dude, those Lower Springs.
Oh, it's so neat.
So we all had our little things figured out. And the way it's set up is you kind of almost have private pools in some areas. Like there's a huge tin, I think it used to be like an old mixer or something, in like a bakery or whatever, but you can like crawl in that thing. There's the crystal pool, which was kind of the main pool. They've added a couple others since the
There's
main
a shower
ones.
spot.
Yeah, there's
and
a
a bath
shower
spot.
Yeah, there's an old cast iron tub you can sit in. Like
You can fill up and take a bath in it. Yeah.
it's really, really quite interesting. But so at night, the wives and the kids are going to sleep, and the guys are sitting on the campfire talking or whatever. And there's like 3 carloads of these college girls shows up, and they all go heading off to the hot springs. And so the guys were joking like, "Hey, yeah, we need to go out here and hang out with these kids or whatever." And so we all go traipsing up through there trying to find a pool that's open or whatever. And they found these kids. And I don't know what they imagined it was going to be like.
Yeah.
But so they all sit down in these pools and we're hanging out, and all these college kids are completely naked, but it's dark. So it's all like you can't see anything, right?
Right.
Well, one of the guys in our group like clicks on his headlamp and these girls start freaking out. And they're like, no light, no light, no light. So he shuts it off. And then they start talking about, well, what are you going to school for? And blah, blah, blah. And this one girl, it's full on Valley Girl, like, so like, I really want to be like an artist and blah, blah, blah. And one of the guys in our group is like laying some hard, cold facts on her. Like,
that's
saying,
not going to
that's
happen.
not gonna, you're going to have to find
You're
you
not
a
going to
job.
make any money.
And so all of a sudden, like, all these other kids just disappear.
They start kind of like going two at a time.
Yeah, they start disappearing. And so we're me and Justin are sitting over in this other pool just laughing about the whole thing that's going down. And so finally everybody gives up and they just all go to bed. And so it's just me and Justin hanging out. And we hear these footsteps through the dark. And here comes this guy, and he sits down, and there's no light. There's not even a moon, but there's just enough that you can kind of see outlines and stuff. And this guy's all propped up with his leg like this crazy as a loon. And he starts going off talking about all these random things. Like Justin and I are trying to have a conversation with the guy, but it's not landing. You know, he's going off on conspiracy theories. He's saying that he did this thing for the Queen of England. And it wasn't long before Justin and I, without being able to make eye contact, we're like, okay, this guy's legit crazy. You know, we need to whatever.
Let's leave.
And so before too long, he goes into this tirade about Indian traditions and how in the Indian culture, the medicine man is the one who does the rites of passage. And then he starts making some suggestive comments about some
What type of rites of passage?
Right, certain rites of passage and things that young boys might do. And then he goes completely silent. And in the darkness, we can tell he's staring intently at both Justin and I. And without having to make eye contact, Justin and I both stood up at the exact same moment and said, well,
good night.
I think it's time to head on back to the tent. And so Justin and I to this day, we joke that he's the medicine man.
Oh yeah.
And that was our strange experience in the hot pools. We've had a wide range of experiences, but it's quite an amazing place for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. I did not have any weird experiences.
No.
All of mine was strictly kosher.
Pretty good. But then like all the other turtleback owners left like the next day, and so we stayed for another 3 days. And man,
it was nice.
Just get up, cook some breakfast, hang out at camp, go up, jump in the hot pool,
get some shade. Yeah.
And then in the midday when it got hot, you go hit the cold pools, cool off for a bit, lay in the shade. There's, I guess it's St. Augustine grass someone had planted there. And so there's like this manicured yard.
Yeah, they actually have it set up to where there's like a sprinkler system
to
maintain
it's just a gravity-fed sprinkler system. And then they turn the burros in to mow the grass.
Yeah.
It's just so cool. It's so otherworldly. It's very Gilligan's Island feeling.
Like you're kind of, it's really surreal. You're like, am I really here?
Yeah. And there's a library. So there's books you can go and check out. You just got to make sure and shut the doors so that the burros
don't get in and eat the books.
There's a caretaker. So there's a full-time caretaker who manages the pools. Technically, he's not supposed to be there because it's against park regulations. But again, this whole area is kind of overlooked. And then even like, the nudity, technically under national park laws, nudity isn't against the law. It's just lewd behavior. Oh. So there's actually a new agreement that's come out for the long-term care of this, of the hot springs themselves, the warm springs themselves. Like there was a lot of discourse that's going on over the past like 8 years, as far as coming up with a plan that protects the history of the hot springs.
Yeah.
And, the people who built them up to be what they are. And
well, because more and more people are finding them and it's becoming more and more popular.
Right.
So
they obviously need a plan to continue this because it's a piece of history. I mean, these things were built by hand.
Well, and the second somebody gets seriously injured or dies there, like who knows what could happen to it if they're not proactively doing something to maintain it and take care of it.
Yeah. So they've come up with a solid plan to take care of it. And what's interesting is back last year in May, we went on a joint adventure with Light Force and Ronnie Dahl in Arizona, and we started having some conversations around the campfire. And then all of a sudden, Sarah comes running over to me. She goes, Kevin, you're not going to believe this. Bill, who was our camp cook, was one of the original guys who helped build these warm springs.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you're kidding. So I'll go over and we have this incredible conversation, full on geek out mode, talking to one of the founders who actually helped build and maintain
Like he still
these warm
goes
springs.
all the time.
He still goes all the time.
He's like considered like the hot springs chef. Like he
Yeah.
brings.
I mean, they're salt of the earth, and this guy is just
Oh, he'd give you the shirt off off his back.
he's an incredible man. He really is. So, Bill McGarvey, if you're listening to this,
We sure love you.
we do, buddy.
We miss you.
I can't wait to meet you out there at the hot springs and get a history lesson. And I just can't wait to go out there and experience that with you at some point. So
Yeah, me too.
So all that to say, obviously there's a whole lot more into Death Valley than just the hot springs, but for us, that's definitely been one of the highlights of the adventure. But in this last episode that we just released, we left the hot springs and we made our way south over South Pass through the Panamint Valley and then up what's called West Side Road to go over Mingle Pass. And we weren't really sure if we could make it across. And then when we got into it, we weren't sure if we could make it across.
Yeah. I mean, there was nothing about it that was terrible. It was just that it was getting dark and
Yeah.
we didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And there wasn't anywhere for us to just stop.
Well, that was the thing, is we wanted to camp and then take our time working our way through that kind of stuff. But there wasn't
anywhere.
anywhere to do that.
Unless we like camped on the trail.
Literally on the trail.
Yeah.
But you did an amazing job.
Well, thanks.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's the most extreme trail we've ever been on,
No.
but at the time it was.
Yes.
And especially with the trailer
With the trailer.
in the dark. And honestly, I don't think anyone could have handled it better than what you did. I mean, you just did an
you were
amazing
coaching me.
job. Well,
Over almost everything.
Well, the thing is, like, a good spotter and a good driver combo, like it's a team effort
Yeah.
for sure.
For sure.
But
But it's funny, like towards the end, like, here's something y'all need to know about Sarah. I cannot stand when the trail seems very unnecessarily jolting. Right?
sure,
And
like, give me technical or give me like nice smooth two track.
yeah, like let me see some nice things. But when it's just jarring and jolting for miles on miles, and you're already tired anyway, and you can't find camp, and you're hungry
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Like by the end, I could tell when you're like easy, and I'm like, go. I'm like, just get me to a camp spot.
Get me down the hill.
please.
Just get me down the hill. But yeah.
You said these trailers were tough. Let's see how tough.
Oh, we did. We absolutely did. No, that's what they were built for.
Yep,
We rocked and rolled on down that sucker.
sure did. Courtesy of yours truly.
And so on that trail, I didn't realize it at the time, but apparently that's if you had made a left once we got through the tough spots, you'd go out towards. There's a ranch. I think it's Barker Ranch, if I remember right, and that's where the Manson family, that whole crazy bunch that murdered people or whatever, that's where they were holed up when it all came apart for them.
Oh,
Yeah, didn't know that.
I don't know anything about it.
So if we'd made it, and I remember making the decision, did we go left or did we go right?
Good
We
thing
almost went to camp at
crazy.
the infamous
Crazy
crazy
People Town?
murder place. Yeah, we almost camped there. But thankfully we kept going straight, and there was just a little wash with enough space that
Yes, that we were able to duck
we
into.
literally nosed into
Yes.
just to camp.
We did.
And that worked out pretty good. But the next day,
It was so pretty where we were.
it was beautiful. And we were only a couple miles from Warm Spring Camp,
Yeah.
which we had no idea was even up there.
Mm-mm.
We come over the hill and here's houses.
Yeah, and we were like, what's happening here? Like yellow, cute buildings.
Right. Along with a bunch of other mining equipment and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But yeah, so got out and started walking around this old camp. And I genuinely thought when I was walking through there that this was like some sort of resort that had been abandoned. Because there's a stinking pool. There's like a nice
Swimming pool, like
right there.
It built in the ground, concrete.
And
And the houses looked fine. And like it was like a walk-in fridge.
yeah, come to find out that was basically the headquarters for the mines in that immediate vicinity. So those talc mines and stuff. It was actually a woman who owned that mining company, and she had built the house and the bunks, and apparently the swimming pool as well. Though
Wow.
I couldn't find a heck of a lot of history on the whole place. But anyhow, that was the idea. So yeah, if you were a miner at that camp, you got you some nice hot baths in the evening down there in the swimming pool.
Some pretty sweet digs.
And looking down, Death Valley there, that would have been freaking amazing.
I mean, somebody should really try and open that back up.
I'm not lying.
You could probably make hand over fist there.
Well, even if it was just a voluntary effort, similar to what was
like
done.
a hostel kind of thing.
Well, yeah, like what was done over at the
Hot
other
springs.
hot springs or the saline springs, to come in there and make it up nice would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But we tried to go and find the source of the hot springs that was running down the hill, and
Yeah, because there is a trail, a well-worn trail.
yeah, there's a trail, and I found a few hints online that there might be a small pool big enough for 3 or 4 people.
That's right.
But the problem is there was a honeybee nest that was like in the cliffs right on the trail, and they were swarming like
They were, which was so
crazy.
weird.
Yeah,
It must have just been agitated or something.
Yeah, something must have gotten in there, but we couldn't. Like they started kind of dive bombing us,
Yeah.
and we decided to turn around at that point. But again, another incredible oddity, and apparently the Shoshone tribes have wintered there for not hundreds, but thousands of years. Like that was their winter spot, was right there.
Sure.
And that's just a taste of Death Valley. There's a heck of a lot more out there. But
Oh, yeah.
all of that to say, if you're looking for a bucket list trip,
Mm-hmm. Like you're like, I want to take a 2-week vacation
Oh,
with
yeah.
my family.
Yeah.
That would be one of the places we would definitely recommend.
Death Valley, you need to see it. You absolutely need to see Death Valley. It's just an incredible place.
And if you want a kind of a glamping experience for Death Valley, there is a hotel down there.
Oh yeah,
Down in Furnace Creek.
Yeah, Furnace Creek is absolutely gorgeous. I've seen some pictures of the hotel that's down there, and,
Mhm.
and they're constantly working on it and making it better and better too. So you don't have to rough it like we did. You can go do day trips out of there and still see the same stuff that we saw.
Mm-hmm.
But I highly recommend the hot springs or the saline springs if you get out there.
Yeah.
It's
One
beautiful.
of our favorite spots.
Yeah. Just, be ready to see some naked people walking around. As long as you're okay with that, no problem.
Right.
Oh, and watch the burros.
Yeah.
Dude, do you remember like the last time we were up there? There was this family that had a dome tent, and they had all their food in like totes and stuff. We went walking past their camp to go up to the springs one day, and I look over, and the burro sticks his head out of the tent. Like
yes.
chewing something. I don't know if it was a bag of tortillas or what. It was just like, sup.
Yeah, they don't care.
They do not care. And talking to the locals or the people that frequent that area, they've learned that they can bust open plastic totes
by stomping them.
They'll bust open cans of soup. They're relentless. So if you do go up there to camp, just be super mindful of what the burros can get into.
Yeah. Be bear aware.
Yeah, be
that
burro aware.
Be that extreme.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There you go.
But if you're looking for unique experiences, unique landscape, unique geology, like you can't find more diversity. I'll say this: you can't find any more diversity in the Southwest than you can within Death Valley National Park.
Mm-hmm.
It truly is a rarity.
For sure.
And it should be at the top of your bucket list.
Yeah.
Close to the top. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the fire is slowly burning low. I'm looking over at Mama Bear, and she's giving me those 30 winks a minute.
It's because I still have my contacts in. And like, you know how they get like kind of like stuck and you're like, what?
All right. Well, I hope you've enjoyed a little bit of a twist on the podcast here, giving you some ideas, told you a few entertaining stories. And definitely check out Death Valley if you get the chance.
Oh, you won't regret it.
You will not regret it.
Unless it's a windstorm. But
yeah.
I did it twice, so you can at least do it once, people.
That's it.
Okay.
Just bring extra tie downs. take off that rain fly off the rooftop tent if you don't have a chance of rain, and it'll reduce your sound.
Pop a Benadryl, just
pop some wine, pop some Benadryl, pop
just
some
go with,
earplugs.
just do it.
And just sit down for the ride.
Yep.
Wrap it up in some hot springs later on.
There you go.
You're good to go.
Absolutely.
It makes it all better.
It does.
Yeah.
It did for us.
Sometimes it's the crappiest camping trips that make for the best stories.
Oh, and that definitely topped the charts for a long time. I've got other ones now, but
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, guys. Well, we hope you're doing amazing wherever you are in this world. And if you have any questions about Death Valley, feel free to reach out to us. We'll do our best to answer all the questions that we can. Again, patreon.com/lifestyleoverland is the best way to get a hold of us. We answer every single comment, every single message over there, and then there's a lot of resources and stuff too. So definitely check that out. If you're looking for Lifestyle Overland merch, and again, shameless plug, because, this...
but it's not even shameless. We have really cool stuff.
We do, and it's growing faster and faster. There's more than just Lifestyle Overland stuff there now. Yeah. I don't want to say too much yet.
Right.
But there may or may not be multiple YouTubers who are going to be on the platform in the near future. So looky there.
So
Not
cool.
to mention a lot of other cool, just outdoorsy stuff too. So,
Absolutely.
But overlandstyle.com for all your Lifestyle Overland merch needs. And soon to be many others.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, guys. I hope you're doing amazing. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye. Safe travels. What is it supposed to be? What is it we say?
Safe travels.
Safe travels. Okay, try that again.
All right.
Safe travels.
Oh, that was a long one, dude.
What time is it?
I don't know, but we've been on this for an hour, 36 minutes.
No, that's totally on par with all of the other ones we do.
That's true. That's been a good discussion.
We always go more than an hour.
Yeah. I think we covered it well.
Mm-hmm.
You know what we didn't talk about? Airing down. People should know that.
Yeah, I don't feel like that's a hot topic.
I'm going to make a video on airing down. People keep asking about it.
Okay.
All right. Let's go get in bed.
Okay.